Hi and welcome to our Outsports Google Hangout. I'm Sid Ziegler. Jim Basinski is in Los Angeles, and we're joined today by Scott Cooper, a former linebacker at Augsburg College, who decided to come out publicly today on Outsports.com, and who's been out to his team for a while. I know Jim was asking Scott about the weather before we started. What did you decide the wind chill was?
Today in Minneapolis, it's 15 below zero.
15 below zero.
Yeah.
And what's the temperature here, Jim?
I just looked. It's gone up to 59 with a wind chill of 58.7. So it's a little chilly here.
And Jim and I we actually feel colder than Scott does.
Yeah, probably.
We're so not used to it.
Well, Sid always runs cold, always. Even if it's 75, he has a sweater on.
That is the truth. So Scott, how's your day been?
It's been a whirlwind. I hardly slept last night. I saw your tweet go out last night, and I got excited and, hardly slept. Thank you, Ezekiel. This morning was just anxious, waiting to hear it come out and see it come out, refresh my browser, and then, when it came out, it's just been immediate positive feedback, not a negative comment. It's only been love and support from people that I know, from friends, family, from people I don't know, from people who have gone to Augsburg. That's been really cool to see all the Augsburg grads come out of the woodwork and share how awesome this is. So I'm just I can't stop smiling right now. It's been great.
Nice. Jim, I know Jim was the one that tweeted out the little message last night, so you could blame him for sleeping tonight.
Yeah.
I saw it. I was like, ah.
Well, Scott, for people who haven't read the story yet, you basically wrote about how you were openly gay on your college football team. You were a linebacker for the last 2 years, and you began the piece. It's a very well written piece about Senior Day. Can you tell people what Senior Day is and why your Senior Day was so special?
Yeah. So Senior Day is typically a celebrated day in any sport, high school and college. It's usually the last home game of the year or of the season. And usually on that day, the seniors are recognized, usually walked out on the field by friends, family, parents, people you're with. So it wasn't any different for us. So our second to last game was our last home game, and so we had Senior Day. And I grew up in Michigan, so family's all there. So they weren't able to come and walk me on the field, but my partner walked me on the field, and regardless of whether or not my parents would be there, I would still want my partner walk me on the field because he's been there for me. So that happened. Senior Day, all the seniors lined up under the bleachers, and we get called to walk out, and they said a little bit about our time there and what we had studied, stuff like that, and who would walk us on the field, and said Scott Cooper and his partner Dan, and we walked out there, and it was no different. There was no different reception from me than from anyone else on the field. That I was just as celebrated, and me and Dan were just as celebrated as everybody else. And that was amazing. You were just kind of waiting for, is somebody going to say something, or is the crowd going to boo, but it was 100% positive. It was awesome.
How and when did you come out to your team? I mean, you wrote about your speech at National Coming Out Day and the team accepting your partner, but take us back. When and how did you tell your teammates?
I would say it was a semi-gradual process, and there wasn't really, a huge official. When I transferred into Augsburg, I had been out for a while. I lived in Minneapolis, and I decided to go to Augsburg, and then my first semester there, I didn't play football my first semester, and then I decided, I need to play again. I really want to play. And I went to coach and asked, and sure enough, I could play and started training with those guys. And I added some of them on Facebook and just interacted and talked with them. And I didn't expect most guys to look through my Facebook page or kind of stalk me anyway, and they didn't. But a few guys did. They noticed, and it wasn't a big deal. We would talk about it, we'd joke about it. During that first season, I tried not to make it a big deal. I wanted guys to get to know me personally rather than, oh, this is Scott, the gay football player. I was like, if they figure it out, it's not a big deal, and we'll talk about it, but I'm not gonna, make a big deal out of it. And then the first season I was there was also Coach Matson's first season. He's kind of our chaplain for campus athletes. And the first week of football camp, all I heard was, fag this, and that's so gay. And I was just getting sick of it. And I went and talked to him like, how do I deal with this without making a scene? Because I'm getting sick of hearing it. And that's when I came out to him. And he was shocked, and he's like, well, we should talk to the head coach about this. And so he's like, I'll talk to Haggy, and we'll talk to him later. And so later in the day, Haggy pulled me aside, and he's like, I gotta talk to you. I was like, I know what this is about. And he's like, Coop, I knew from day one. I was like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, I saw your Facebook page. He's like, it's not a big deal. Let's not make it a big deal. I was like, okay. So we just did it, and if you guys knew, and if they paid attention, they knew. And then part of the funny thing is part of our freshman initiation, which I joined in on since I was a transfer, was lip syncing at a bowling alley. We did team bowling.
Oh boy.
We did this thing. We make each position group kind of lip sync, and mine was spot on. And and people
What
are like,
was it? What was the song?
what was my song? I think it was $1 Million Bill by Whitney Houston. Yeah. So, and of course they're all like, the guys who knew me are like, tweet your iPod for find out these like embarrassing girly songs, and they knew, those guys knew where to find it. So, but over the off season, we have a student athlete group. It's called A Team that we meet on. It's kind of like a discussion group. We just find topics we want to talk about, discuss life, the greater things, all that good stuff, last school stuff. And one day over the winter, our topic was homosexuality. And so we had a big conversation about it, and I just kind of sat back and listened because I didn't want to run the conversation. I just kind of wanted to hear what other people said. And, it was great. No one's like, oh, that's weird, that's nasty, nothing. And there was other guys in the room that knew I was gay, and they're just kind of looking at me, smiling, kind of waiting for me to talk. And I'm like, I'm not gonna say anything yet. And then at the end of the discussion, I was like, hearing this has been great. And for you guys who don't know, I'm gay. I didn't say anything this whole time because I didn't want to make this discussion about me. I really wanted to hear what people had said. And I just, broke down crying because I had never been accepted like that before, and it's been so great. And they're all hugging me, and there's probably only 20 or so people in that group. Mostly football players, but other student athletes as well. And I guess word just kind of spread. Then, I never really had to do a big team meeting or anything. People just kind of knew, and training continued as usual. The next day we're in the weight room. It's no different, and pretty soon we're cracking jokes about it. So it's was never a big deal at all.
So you can contrast that though with it really was a big deal before you went to Augsburg, because you write about how you actually were going to join the ministry, and then there was an incident in a class that kind of changed that forever.
Yeah, so I was going to Martin Luther College. That's where I started, and I was going in the ministry. Was debating about that, but I knew that I could not be out and be a part of that. So I had to make a conscientious choice of, okay, do I, stay here and keep my mouth shut and just finish my degree, or do I leave now, or do I stay, be in the ministry and be closeted my whole life, maybe get married and all that. And I was like, there's no way I can fake that. And I was really unsure. I didn't really enjoy my time at Martin Luther, to be honest. It was never a great fit just as a school, and a few other reasons, but mostly religious. But yeah, one day we were in a psychology class. A psychology class is being taught by a professor that has a doctorate degree that should know better. There was a line in our book that came up that homosexuality is not a choice and blah blah blah, and our professor goes, take out your pens, cross that out, and write that it is a choice. I was like, what? Excuse me. And I challenged him on it. I was like, you can ask any gay person in the world that is not a choice. And everyone in the class just kind of looks at me. I'm like, oh crap, I just totally outed myself. Because, it was, you couldn't be out there. If I would have been publicly out, I would have been asked to leave. So in another, same class, a few days later, we talked about, would we let kids into our Lutheran schools that had gay parents? And the consensus was no, we wouldn't let them in if they had gay parents. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And and I fought him about that. I'm like, I know I just outed myself. And, 4 weeks later, I was out of there. So I was just
They
done.
asked you to leave? They asked you to leave?
No, they didn't ask me to leave. I left because I chose to leave. But at that point, it was basically either leave or get asked to leave, I think. And I didn't publicly come out at that college because I didn't want to burn that bridge. I wasn't quite sure what my future education goals were, but I was like, I can't take this anymore. This is just stupidity. There's no way. So I left.
Well, that's crazy. So, what did you find? Did religion play a big role on your team?
Which team at Augsburg?
At Augsburg, yeah.
No, not really. I mean, we definitely had guys from different religious backgrounds. You know, we have such a diverse team. We have guys from inner city. We have farm kids. We have, you know, the gay kid. You know, we have a little bit of everything. But you know, it's in a place where we can talk about religion, but everyone's different. There's no common religion. Even though Augsburg is a ELCA school, it's not like, you know, everyone that goes there is ELCA. So.
Which is what, Lutheran?
Yes, Lutheran, liberal Lutheran. Yeah.
So when you were, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Like I say, Scott, when you're actually playing in games, did you hear other opponents ever just drop fag or anything like that, just because that's what the kind of words they used when they would like be on a field, or was that simply non-existent?
In college, no. I never heard it at Augsburg, and I don't know why. If there's an explanation for that, in high school, definitely did, all the time in high school. And I wasn't out or anything, but for some reason, people. I don't know if they said it to other players or not, but in high school, I always got called fag, and usually I just wink at them and slap them on the ass and say, all right, so.
I've heard that from NFL players, too, that they heard it a lot in high school, they heard it a little in college, and they didn't hear it all in the pros. So as people get older, they just kind of, those words and that language just goes away.
Yeah, so, yeah, I think it does. And, you know, once I made it a big deal about, you know, we're not going to use the word fag anymore in the locker room. We're not going to say that's gay. That cut out. And, you know, guys slipped a little bit, especially like incoming freshmen. And they'd be like, oh, that's gay. I'm like, what'd you say? And they're like, oh, God, I'm sorry. So they get it. And, you know, I was guilty of it. I remember one time when I was at Martin Luther, I was talking to a guy I was dating on the phone, and, of course, very secretly. But I said something about that being gay. He's like, what did you just say? And I was like, holy crap, I've never even realized how bad that was. So, I mean, it's a learning process.
Yeah, when I was going through your Facebook account, I saw some other photographs of you in rodeo, in a softball game. It looked like, I don't know if it was a race or a triathlon.
Yeah.
What are the sports you participate in, and are some of these leagues gay leagues?
Yeah, so in high school I was football, basketball, baseball, and then in college I just played football. And then since then I've done marathons. Dan does marathons, so I was like, you know, I got to do that too. So I did my first marathon in June, you know, and there's not really a gay marathon organization. So, but softball, yes, it is NAGA, North American Gay Athletic Amateur Association. So yeah, I have played NAGA softball for a few years. And that's a gay organization. That's great. That was a lot of fun when I moved to Minneapolis to learn that, oh my God, there are other gay athletes. So that was really cool. And I think for any young gay athlete, that's a really cool organization to find.
So you spoke at National Coming Out Day at your campus, and it was asked by your coach. What was the reaction to your speech?
Standing ovation, literally. It was amazing. I wasn't sure, you know, what the reaction would be. I mean, you're kind of up there and you have this captive audience and you're throwing your story in their face, and I didn't know whether they'd be uncomfortable or just weirded out by it or what. But Chapel actually started with Macklemore's Same Love, the video up on the screen, which is way cool. It's one of my favorite songs. And, you know, everyone came and sat down. They're watching this. Everyone's super quiet. You know, why is Coop up there? Why is he talking? And then, you know, I gave my talk, and I was crying during half of it, and, you know, I saw other people crying, and I turn around to hug Matson after I get done, and I hear clapping, which is awesome, and I turn around, and everyone's standing up, and I just completely lose it. It was amazing just to feel that type of support, and, you know, that kind of appreciation for who I was amazing. So, you know, and after chapel, a bunch of the guys came up and gave me hugs, and students and faculty. I got an email from the provost the next day, and that was pretty cool. So, Awesome reaction.
But we keep being told how homophobic sports are, and in particular football. But every football player we talk to comes out in high school or college. None have come out in pros, obviously. They all say the same thing, that they may have heard some gay slurs before they came out, but when they did, they were fully embraced. So what are we missing? How are we not getting the message of what seems to be really there when athletes come out to the rest of the football world? What is the disconnect there?
I think it's just knowing somebody. I think it makes such a bigger impact when you know somebody who's gay, or you've been around it. You're less likely to do it. I mean, I came from rural area of Michigan where there's no African American people, and you should have heard the ethnic slurs people use. But the minute an African American's in the room, they're not going to use it. And they get to know somebody, and they're a little bit more conscientious about that. And I think it's the same thing with gay people. You have these things in your mind about it, and you can use the slurs, and it's not a big deal. But once you know somebody who's gay, and you can have this image of your mind of who your words may be hurting, I think it's a totally different thing.
Well, on the football line, Jonathan Vilma, a linebacker for the Saints, made comments about how he'd be uncomfortable with the gay guy in the shower. And the comments on our Outsports story, a lot of them are, Saints fans. Basically, I agree with them. Could you just explain to people why, like the shower seems to be the big hang-up when people talk about it. Could you simply address the whole shower thing?
Like, people seriously need to get over this. Like, we're not gay to be checking out each other, honestly. I mean, I love my Augies, but there's not a single one that I would hit on. I mean, it's just not a deal. Those guys are your brothers. It's the same as showering with your brother when you're a kid. It's not a big deal. I don't know why people are freaking out about that. There shouldn't be separate locker rooms. There doesn't need to be. We joke in the shower all the time about me being gay. It's not a big deal. And maybe my guys are just awesome, but yeah, when I read that story, and I was just like, you gotta be kidding me, dude. Seriously, like, just get over it. And if guys ever kind of looked at me like that, I'm like, don't worry about it. You're not my type. Plus, wait 20 years. So.
No, I gotta take a different perspective on this, because I've talked to athletes who have been attracted to some of their teammates. You might not have been, but others are. Yeah. And straight guys look too, and everybody sees what's going on in the shower and in the locker room, and they make fun of each other. They come up with nicknames for each other based on what they see when they're naked. So just because a gay guy is also looking at you, it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, there are straight guys looking at you too.
Oh, I know. I went to a prep school that I dormed in, so we're all naked all the time, always looking at each other. Like, it's not a thing when you're that comfortable around each other. It's not about that your body turns me on. It's like you're just there. I mean, it's like being in a public locker room. Go to a Lifetime Fitness. It's it's the same thing. So.
But isn't it the disconnect too that Vilma assumes that if a guy is closeted, he's not going to look, but oh my God, once the guy comes out, he's obviously going to become this predator in his shower.
Right.
Because he certainly has showered with a gay guy at some point in his career, and yet he acts like, oh my God, the guy comes out and I'm going to be attacked.
Right, exactly. And I think, I don't know if I can say this on air, but I think a lot of times people equate real life to porn. It's like, that stuff doesn't happen. It's even if the guy did like you, nothing's going to happen in a public place, so just get over it.
Well, Scott, I really appreciate you coming out publicly. We talked about that when you first got a hold of us. We talked about what that meant, and you had some concerns, and you wanted to talk to your coach and other people, and appreciate that you decided to do it, and they were totally supportive of it. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for the opportunity.
Thanks,
Jim, any last questions, Jim?
Yeah, Scott, what are your career plans?
Oh, man. Well, I loved school a lot. I love school. I'm sad to be graduated. I've been job hunting right now. I'm a communications major, so people keep asking what's my ideal job or what I want to do. I'm like, I don't know. So If you guys come up with the suggestions, let me know. But possibly grad school down the road. Obviously, I love writing a lot, so any opportunity I'm looking for. I don't know if this is the right or wrong thing, but I'm waiting for something to kind of grab me and take me and excite me because right now in my job hunt, nothing excites me. So if I could just be a student, play football forever, it'd be good. So to everyone who's in school, stay in school forever. Don't graduate. So
Parents across America just gave you a big hug. Thank you so much for running up our dog. But thank you for joining us, Scott Cooper. I'm Sid Ziegler for Jim Bazinski and Outsports. We will catch you the next time.